Citizenship on the Go. Lesson 7. American Government. The Legislative Branch. Part 3. Bills, Political Parties, and the House Speaker. The legislative branch is the branch of government that makes federal laws. Both parts of Congress share this power. When the legislature proposes a new law, it must go through several steps of review and approval by different people in government before it can be officially adopted. A new law starts as an idea endorsed by someone in Congress. Since the First Amendment gives people the right to petition the government, any person, group, or organization in the United States is free to contact senators or representatives in Congress to try to get them to endorse an idea they think is important. If you have an idea for a law, you can call or write to your state senator or the representative of your congressional district to try to convince them to support that idea. You also have the constitutional right to join public protests or demonstrations to show people in Congress how you feel about an issue you think the legislative branch should address. Once a senator or a House representative decides to endorse an idea for a new law, they introduce it in their part of Congress. The idea for a law, which is called a bill, is discussed and debated by other members of the part of Congress where the bill was introduced. The bill goes through changes by committee until enough people in the Senate or in the House are happy with it for it to be put to a vote. If a majority of senators or a majority of representatives vote in favor of the bill, it goes to a House Senate committee made up of people from both parts of Congress. That committee makes even more changes. Once they're done with their revisions, the final version of the bill is voted on by all of Congress. If Congress passes a bill, the bill is sent to the head of the executive branch of government, the President. The President has two options: signing the bill into law or vetoing the bill. If a president signs a bill, it becomes law. If a president vetoes a bill, however, that means the president has rejected the idea. During their time in office, most presidents in U.S. history have signed some bills passed by Congress and vetoed others. Presidents usually make the decision to sign or to veto a bill after talking the choice over with members of the cabinet, a group of people in the executive branch who have the job of advising the president. The ability of a president to veto a bill is an important power of the executive branch that serves as a check on the legislative branch, or a way of stopping or slowing down the legislature. This feature of the system of checks and balances was put in place to ensure Congress doesn't get to be so powerful that the legislative branch runs the entire government on its own. If a president vetoes a bill, the bill goes back to Congress for further consideration. After hearing the president's explanation of the reasons for the veto, Congress has the option of changing the bill to address the president's concerns, dropping the bill, or attempting to override the veto. For Congress to override a veto, at least 2/3 of the voting members of the Senate and at least 2/3 of the voting members of the House of Representatives must decide to make the bill a law, despite the president's objections. It isn't common for more than 2/3 of both parts of Congress to vote in agreement on anything, so for a veto to be overridden, the bill must have unusually strong support with senators and representatives. Because of separation of powers and the system of checks and balances, it's not easy for a bill to become a law. Every year, more than 5,000 bills are introduced, but only about 150 become law. Civics test question. Who makes federal laws? Who makes federal laws? Congress. The U.S. Congress makes federal laws. Both parts of Congress are involved in the lawmaking process, so we can also say that the Senate and the House of Representatives make federal laws. Congress is also known as the legislature. The national legislature makes federal laws. Civics test question. Who signs bills to become laws? Who signs bills to become laws? The President. When the President of the United States signs a bill that has been passed by Congress, the bill becomes law. Civics test question. Who vetoes bills? Who vetoes bills? The President. The President of the United States has the power of rejecting a bill, an action which is called a veto. The two major political parties in the United States are the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, popularly symbolized by an elephant and a donkey. Often, as we've seen on maps of midterm and presidential election results, the color red is used to represent the Republican Party, and the color blue is used to represent the Democratic Party. States in which a majority of voters usually choose Republican candidates for office are often called red states, while states in which a majority of voters usually choose Democratic candidates are frequently described as blue states. Connecticut, for example, is often described as a blue state because of how often voters in the state elect Democratic candidates to Congress and to other seats in federal and state government. Although the Republican and Democratic parties have far greater influence across the nation than other parties in the United States, other political parties do exist. Voters and politicians can choose to register as members of one of the two major political parties, as members of other smaller third parties, or as members of no party at all. People who register as a voter or a candidate for office without a party affiliation are called independents. Most senators and most House representatives belong to one of the two major political parties. However, on occasion, candidates are elected to the Senate or to the House who do not belong to either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Even though it's not very common for third-party candidates or independent candidates to win seats in federal elections, it does sometimes happen. Civics test question. What are the two major political parties in the United States? What are the two major political parties in the United States? The Democratic and Republican parties. The two major political parties in the United States are the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. There are other parties, but these are the two major ones. One of the 435 voting members of the House of Representatives has a unique role with special powers and duties. This person is called the Speaker of the House of Representatives, or the House Speaker for short. The Speaker of the House has the job of controlling floor debates, assigning representatives to committees, and deciding which bills will be considered by the House, among other things. Every 2 years, after elections are held for House representatives, the political party with the most voting members in the House selects a candidate for House Speaker. After the members of the majority party in the House choose their candidate for Speaker, the entire House votes to confirm that person in the role. Successfully carrying out the duties of the Speaker of the House requires someone to be well organized, conscientious about making big decisions, dedicated to keeping informed on important issues, proficient at moderating heated debates, and capable of listening thoughtfully to different sides of an argument. Since these are all characteristics that are desirable in the head of the executive branch, after the vice president, the Speaker of the House is next in line for the job of President of the United States. This means that if something happens to the president and to the vice president, making it so that both the president and the vice president can no longer serve, the Speaker of the House becomes president. If, for example, the president died in office and the vice president resigned, the House Speaker would be required to step in as president, becoming the head of the executive branch and the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military. This would be true even if the Speaker of the House at the time belonged to a different political party than the president and vice president. Any voting member of the House of Representatives has the potential of becoming House Speaker if their party wins a majority of seats in the House. When U.S. citizens vote for who they want representing their congressional district, they might also want to consider whether that person would make a good House Speaker, and whether they would be up to the task of serving as president in case of a national emergency. Civics test question. If both the president and the vice president can no longer serve, who becomes president? If both the president and the vice president can no longer serve, who becomes president? The Speaker of the House. If both the president and vice president can no longer serve, the Speaker of the House of Representatives becomes president. Civics test question. What is the name of the Speaker of the House of Representatives now? What is the name of the Speaker of the House of Representatives now? Do you know the answer to this question? If you're not sure you know the name of the current Speaker of the House, visit speaker.gov to find the answer. This is the end of Lesson 7 of Citizenship on the Go.